What's Going on Seaville was made possible by the donations and services provided by Charlottesville Area Community Foundation, Community Endowment, Hollywood Theater Lab, Lighthouse Studio. What's Going on Seaville? I'm your host, Lana Young. We have a super cool show tonight. Andrew Owen is in the studio to tell us about the LOOK3 Charlottesville Festival of the Photograph. It has been billed as 3 days of peace, love, and photography. Sounds pretty good, huh? I even got the honor of visiting with the very dynamic Nichols, who is the founder of LOOK3, and we visited him where it all began. And he even gave us a sneak peek of his newest project, The Lions of the Serengeti. Take a look. This is where it all happened, huh? This is where the LOOK3...
The last time we had, before it was LOOK3, it was called Hot Shots or Backyard Slideshow. And the last time we had 500 people camped.
In this
on
area?
These hillsides. All over.
Wow.
Well, not camped, passed out. This is where we decided that we couldn't keep doing it.
Here. And were they photographers or were they visitors that were just...
It was anybody that could, the rule of thumb was if you knew about it, you could come. And people would always get mad at me, but you didn't invite me. And I said, but I didn't invite anybody.
Right.
It was,
word of mouth.
It was word of mouth. And anybody that came could show work. You could show no more than 20 pictures and no one could talk. And it was a family, tribal get together. We're talking about it in the context of Charlottesville, but in the photographic community, LOOK3 is globally known as the event for photographers, by photographers for photographers.
You've been dubbed the Indiana Jones of photography. Makes me feel kind of giddy to be sitting here with you.
It was a long time ago.
So you've had the title for a while. So you just got back from Africa, and you were dealing with lions.
Yeah, we just spent the last 2 years, I think 16 months or 15 months in the last 2 years with lions in the Serengeti. It was a project that we planned for like 5 years. We got a special car that we bought in England and had fixed up for photographing lions. Had robot tanks, so you could drive a car up to lions after they got used to it and filmed them very intimately. We had a little electric helicopter that we could fly and photograph without being intrusive. The main thing, though, is that we film the lions at night, and lions' behavior changes dramatically as soon as the sun goes down. So we were trying to paint a very dramatic, new way of looking at lions at a time that they're in crisis.
Because a lot of your work has been to save something, to raise awareness, to raise funds for. Did you set out to do that?
Not at all. I wanted to be an artist and studied that sort of thing as a young man. But when I first photographed gorillas in Africa, I knew that my colleagues were doing war photography or social issues. And that's when I'd been called the Indiana Jones of photography because I was rafting rivers and climbing mountains and going into caves, which is what I would call hedonistic behavior. As soon as I saw the gorilla has no voice, they almost all were gone, I said, wow, I can be that voice.
So let's talk about the Serengeti. What story were you trying to tell?
Okay, the Serengeti is this emblematic, iconic word, Serengeti, and it's threatened. They're trying to build roads through it. They're trying to build, there's lots of safari hunting around it. The animals around it are hunted. The country that's in, Tanzania, has one of the largest human population growths on the planet. So lions are not safe. And you could ask anybody in public, how are lions doing? Well, they're all over Africa. No, they're getting isolated into pockets. And one of the pockets they're going to survive in is the Serengeti. Let me show you something, if I can.
Please do.
So the pride that he sired the cubs of are these cubs. And there's 5 females. That's the only adult female. This one right here. The rest of these are the 8 cubs. They're almost big. So we followed them for almost 2 years. We saw them right up when they're tiny. You see how big their eyes are? That's because they've got their night vision turned on.
Goodness.
And normally if you film them at night, you blind them. because you're turning on light to see it. They can't see any of this light. Neither can this animal see the light because it's dead. No. This is Sea Boy mating with a female from...
He looks like he can see you.
Yeah, well, he's growling at the car because we're too close. This is the cubs at a different age, at like a year old, and they've just attacked this male and run him off, but they're resting on this rock. But you do know this is all black and white. National Geographic's always color.
Yeah.
I've got 5 double-page pictures of black and white to open this story, which is a big deal.
Jeez, look at
That's that little robot. See, you couldn't get that close. And I'm probably from here to the window, sitting in the car.
So you're working the robot with
My
a remote
assistant's
control?
working the robot.
Okay, right.
I'm pushing a button. This is 200,000 pictures cut to 13 that we're going to publish.
Wow.
200,000 down to 13.
And this is going to be in the LOOK3 Festival.
It's going to be in the Haven Church.
This is going to be in the Haven Church.
We're going to call it, to help me work on the title.
Okay.
The Church That Roared.
Ooh.
The...
Roar of the Heavens.
Oh, I don't think we're going to go there.
I think that's taken.
But something like the Church That Roared, or the Church of the Lion. It's a fabulous place. So it's got this cool map. Now these are the killers. They're 2 brothers, 2 sets of brothers from the same pride. And 4 years ago, they attacked Sea Boy and nearly killed him. They killed the cubs that were born from the other mating, this mating. And they've been terrorizing all the prides that are in my area. Now that's from the robot.
Okay, so this is the robot shot, and you can see a little
shadow.
Shadow there.
See now this.
And
she has a collar.
How do they react to the robot?
The first time they saw it, they were nervous. The second time, a little bit nervous.
Did
the
they
third
ever try
time,
to touch it or attack it or anything like that?
Later. First, they then ignored it. And this is in the ignoring of it, period. In the video clip that goes with this, one of the females comes and lays down in front of these, almost touching it, and puts her head down. So lions are so energy efficient. They don't want to waste any energy.
That's
so getting up and leaving is a big deal. But that's their choice. So if we ever saw them reacting negatively what we were doing, we stopped. We never caused them to miss a meal trying to photograph them hunting. It's very important to me because I was afraid these cubs would die because every meal was really important.
Do you feel connected to these animals after you work?
Absolutely. Every day we think about them.
So you mourn their losses?
Well, we
very
really
difficult.
care about them, and now we try not to be too anthropomorphic about it, but we are. We're completely in love with them. Yeah, it's not like here's when they attacked the male because he was being mean to the cubs. I'll just finish this. That's him with the robot. But this is the story that will be in the August National Geographic. Good.
Thank you so
Now,
much.
but just want to show you the turn so you know what happens. So after my story, so you have the guy running. That's Hildor running.
Right.
You turn to living with lions.
Oh my goodness.
And this is a man that lost both his arms to a lion attack.
Oh my goodness.
And it looks like a baptism. It's in a little shallow lake in southern Tanzania where a couple hundred people a year die because of lions. And then you turn to farming of lions for bones for China. They're farming them in southern Africa. And then you have hunting. She was in a cage the day before she was shot. So they have these canned hunts. Kind of ridiculous stuff that happens with lions. But so
do tourists come and pay for that?
Rich people
hunt?
come to pay. Wealthy people. But it's not that simple. You know, it's really easy to criticize it.
Of course.
But it's the lands
you're
lands that these lions can live on have to pay for themselves.
Yeah.
So sometimes the safari hunting, if it weren't so corrupt, could pay for buffer zones around all these parks.
And you tell that whole story.
Yeah, this is a full-on. And the same writer wrote all the pieces. We have maps that do it. We have a graphic that shows that lions mostly kill people by a dark night, not by the moonlight, which is kind of obvious.
Which is the romantic kind of version.
Back in the day, I think that's 1992, my second National Geographic assignment. I already knew gorillas very well. And I went to a place where we knew that tourism's what saved gorillas. But it also became the dark side because people started touching them and they were getting flus and measles and stuff and they were dying. So I knew that in this part that they got too close. So I didn't announce myself as a photographer. I went as a tourist.
Oh.
And that day they'd been letting the baby gorillas touch. And the silverback was very angry because he said, you know, you're not supposed to do this. So he came over to discipline the whole crowd, and I was the lead. And I know what to do when a gorilla attacks you is you submit. You get passive. You go down and you bow and you don't make eye contact. And then those guards knew exactly
that you knew what you were
that I was
doing.
a ringer.
So that's you.
And that picture became very
becoming
famous.
submissive.
Yeah.
To the gorilla.
So and he's just and that picture is the lead photo of the article. Okay. Yeah. So you see that photograph. The picture that I was making at that moment was that picture.
Oh.
So that's the guy with the camera. That's the tourist with the camera that made my picture.
Let's turn this around.
Yeah, so if you see that one on the wall, then you see he's coming right toward me. I did a project called Brutal Kinship, which was about chimps and AIDS research and circuses and all this dark stuff. But I did spend a lot of time at Jane Goodall's camp on the Lake Tanganyika, and that's where I'm standing.
Right.
And I've been with Jane that day.
What was it like working with Jane Goodall?
Well, just very, like all of these characters, they're hard-headed, driven, but she's very special. I mean, she just is always on point.
Yeah.
She would be just she wouldn't be interviewing you right now. She'd be trying to convince you to join the cause. Anyone that touches her, she says, okay, you're going to be on the team. So, and that's what she did with me. I was basically her photographer for a few years, and I made some pretty famous pictures of her. Yeah, but the first tree we did was this redwood, and that's the same person there and there. So we spent 19 dawns trying to get this picture. I think we got it on the 13th day, but it took a year to figure it out. And I kind of had a nervous breakdown on this project because I couldn't figure this picture out. But after I figured it out and it was so popular, we decided we would do the biggest tree on earth, which is this giant sequoia called the President Tree. And this tree is 1,500 years old. This one's 3,200 years old.
Oh, you're kidding.
This wood is very valuable for building, so they all got wiped out. The giant sequoias didn't get wiped out. The wood splinters. And it grows at 7,000 feet where the snow in the Sierra. So we shot this in a blizzard. This guy, see how big he is? Well, he's really at the same, but he's just very forward of me. The tree is so big. It had so many. We shot.
You had 84 frames, right? So that you could
84
make
for this one, 100 and something for this one.
But the piece that you showed in France was 60 feet, correct?
Yeah. We hung this in a church in France. The goal is to hang them off of buildings in San Francisco.
Oh my goodness.
Because that's where these trees come from, and the audience there, you make a big plea for trees in general by doing that.
Photography has a loud voice, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It doesn't lie.
It does lie.
Well, it can now with technology.
But it's very subjective.
Yeah.
You know, but it lies with passion.
Yeah. It definitely lies with passion. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Oh, thank you.
So we just saw where LOOK3 all began as the backyard slideshow, but we've come a long way since then.
We have.
So can you tell me, first of all, why is it called LOOK3?
Good question. A lot of people ask. Our original idea was Festival of the Photograph, but when you shorten that down, it's FOP, which is FOP.
Okay.
Which we didn't think had a real ring to it.
Let's go to the FOP.
Right, yeah, exactly. So we started thinking, okay, 3 main artists, 3 days, you're looking, you're seeing, you're looking. And all of a sudden it was just kind of like, LOOK3. And our designer created a really strong logo for it. And it also is a reference to Look magazine back in the day, which is out of print. So we just felt like it was just a strong visual, a strong brand, and easy to say. Are you going to Look? Are you going to LOOK3?
I love it.
So it stuck.
It stuck.
Yeah.
It works. So coming up 7 years, right?
Yeah.
This is the 7th year?
7th year and 6th major festival that we've had.
That's amazing.
Downtown.
So
Yeah.
how would you say that it's evolved since the backyard slideshow?
Well, you know, the interesting thing about Nick's backyard slideshow was that he had people coming from all over the world to his backyard. People would plan their summer trips from wherever they were making, in photographs in Chile or Antarctica or, Africa. They'd come to the U.S. to time it around Nick's backyard. So we've always had an international sort of contingent as our base. But I think now we've really grown nationally, and 90% of our attendees are from out of Charlottesville area. So I think that's probably been a growing percentage, that each year more and more people come from out of town, because it really is about the photographic community as well as the Charlottesville community. So we have a real kind of polar sort of audience. We have the Charlottesville audience that sees the exhibits for the entire month of June and takes part in all the free exhibits. But a lot of our attendees are from all over the world, and mostly in the U.S.
Well, I'll jump ahead since you mentioned the Charlottesvillians. Are you, I think you gave me a percentage, like 87%
Right.
are from outside of the Charlottesville
Right.
area. Are you doing anything to encourage the Charlottesville community to be part of this more?
Absolutely. So the 87% really represents ticket sales.
Okay.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you don't buy a ticket,
That you're not
participating.
experiencing,
That's right. Because we estimate that about 25,000 residents and visitors to Charlottesville experience the festival. So the exhibits that are hanging in the trees, that are free and open to the public, all the exhibits in 2nd Street Gallery, McGuffey Art Gallery, all the empty venues or empty storefronts that we transform into galleries for the month of June. We also quantify that as well, and into that sort of 25,000 number. So yes, we reach an enormous out-of-town audience, but we really are definitely focused as well on the local audience and making sure that the Charlottesville, Albemarle region feels like this is their festival as well, that this is in their backyard, and that this is something that they can be as excited about, even if they just buy a $10 ticket to something in the pavilion.
Right.
Because we do have a 3-day pass, and not everybody can take off that much time from work and attend all those events. So there's lots of different ways to customize your sort of Look3 experience.
Oh, great. So
Yeah.
a single ticket
Yeah.
to certain exhibits. That's wonderful. It's so fascinating to me how this has kind of put Charlottesville on the map as this sort of international venue. Little old Charlottesville
Yeah.
is so sophisticated in this way. It's really exciting. I'm really excited about this festival.
Yeah, well, to go back to your question about how it's grown, I mean, I think the big difference between Nick's backyard and now is that the Charlottesville is ready. Charlottesville as the downtown sort of cultural center matured while Nick was having his backyard slideshow parties, so that in 2007, the pavilion was restored,
Mm-hmm.
the Paramount was restored, the pavilion was built, and we have all these great galleries downtown. So there's no other sort of city or venue in the country that really allows photographers to come together in one central place and not have to get in their cars and drive all over the city. So everything happens at once. The social, the creative, the aesthetic experience all happen at once right on the mall. And I think that's what separates us from other photo festivals around the world is Charlottesville and the actual physical space of downtown.
That's wonderful. I was struck by the diversity of the photographers that were showing this year. Photojournalism, natural history, the whole thing. We have Joseph Kudelka, who witnessed and documented the Warsaw Pact tanks invading Czechoslovakia in 1968. That's fascinating. Can you talk a little bit about him
Sure.
and his work?
So Joseph, in 1968, when the Russians invaded Czechoslovakia, Prague, they invaded Prague and Czechoslovakia, he was an unknown photographer. And he was basically taking photographs on the sly because he would have guns pointed at him otherwise. And when he smuggled the film out of the country, he sent it to Paris, and it was published anonymously for his safety. And he ended up winning a major medal of honor for his work, but it was published as anonymous. So it wasn't until I think 1990 that he actually could come out and say, "This was my work." So he took enormous personal risk to make those photographs.
They were haunting.
But they endure.
Yeah.
And even today, that body of work of the Prague invasion stands up as one of the gold standards for war photojournalism.
Yeah, there was a wonderful quote on your website about how I don't remember them and they don't remember me, but we were able to remember through photography.
That's right.
I kind of made a rhyme there and I didn't mean to. But yes, that was very striking. And then we also have Gregory Crewdson, who kind of blurs the lines between film and photography with his big elaborate staged photography sets and everything. That's fascinating. And then of course, Nichols, who realized that he could sort of be the voice for nature through photography.
Yeah.
So how do you pick the photographers that get to show?
Good question. We have curators, and each year we have 2 different curators who bring a new vision, a new set of contacts, because really the festival is about community, and the curators each year are thinking about, who do I want to celebrate? Who are the photographers that I admire, that I want to put on the stage at the Paramount and hear about their careers, their failures, their successes?
So it's a very personal decision.
It's very personal.
Which always works, I think.
Absolutely. And so it's not just will you come, show a PowerPoint on the stage. We bring interviewers each year so that the artist has a rapport and somebody to kind of generate a conversation with, and that's really what our curators are looking for, to create even historic moments. We had an opportunity a couple of years ago to bring Sally Mann to interview Nan Goldin, and these are 2 of the most iconic female photographers of all time, who had never met.
Oh, wow. Which seems crazy.
That's right. And Sally's not a professional interviewer, but she's incredibly smart and knows all about Nan's work, and Nan knows all about her work. So the 2 of them just sat on a couch on stage.
That was fascinating.
And it was amazing. I'm sorry it had to end after an hour and a half. But that's really what we're looking for. And I think that's why people come back every year, because they know that this is not a staged or scripted conversation. This is about photographers, iconic photographers, speaking about their lives and what it means to be a committed photographer.
Getting in their brain, seeing through their eyes. And that's what I love about that. And so while we're on the topic, let's talk about some of your amazing events and exhibits, because you're talking specifically about the Insight artists.
That's right.
And tell us a little bit about that structure.
Sure. Well, it's evolved a little bit over the years, and like I said, when we were thinking of the name LOOK3, we were going to feature 3 featured artists each year. That was the idea. So 3 marquee artists and then maybe supplementary artists as well. But this year, our curators Melissa Harris and Yolanda Cuomo said, we can't just choose 3. How about 6? So instead of what we used to call masters artists, which they would give 30-minute presentations. This year we have 6 Insight artists, so they get a little bit more time on stage. And then with each artist presentation, there's also a solo gallery exhibit. So we want to make sure that any of our artists who are on stage, that the audiences can go and see their work in the gallery as well, because that's also a really important dimension to photography. Is not just seeing your work digital, but having it, printed and behind glass. Even though we've moved to digital in a lot of ways, there's nothing that quite replicates the feeling of seeing your photographs behind glass on the wall.
Yeah, that's lovely. And of course, you always have interesting interviewers as well, professional interviewers or critics or authors of photography. Yeah, so I'm sure you get some really in-depth.
Absolutely.
Insight into the photographer.
That's right.
Hence the name. Another one, the Trees exhibit, which I think has a twist.
A little bit.
Oh, can you tell us?
Sure.
Okay.
So this year we are adding an audio component to the Trees
to
exhibit.
the trees?
Yeah. Yes. Because we know that everybody sees the trees exhibit, they love it, but they're also often asking, what are they doing, or what creature is that, or what's significant about it is hard to convey. So this year we're actually going to have a caption card next to each photograph, and it will have a QR code for your phone that will link to audio tours, so you can actually hear.
So cutting edge.
Tim Lehman, who's the artist, talk about his 10 years in Papua New Guinea photographing these creatures. And the Nature Conservancy is our new partner on that. They're
Great.
helping make all this happen. And they do a lot of field work in Indonesia and Papua New Guinea as well. So sort of talking about the ecosystems, and I think it's going to add a whole new educational component that will bring out the photographs in new ways.
It's a great way to reach out to kids too,
Yes.
who are just all over their phones and
That's
the
right.
QR codes.
That's
and
right.
I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. I'm going to jump to one of my favorites, your space.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, and then as you can see, a lot of this always goes back to Nick's backyard and what was the original spirit and sort of vision of Nick's backyard, and that was anybody could share their own work if they came to Nick's backyard. So we wanted to make sure that even though we at Look3 have a curated program, how do we give everybody an opportunity to show their own work? So Canon, who's one of our partners, said, well, we'll provide free printing. So anybody who has a Look3 badge, or a ticket, they can come to the registration and submit a photograph, a digital photograph, and Canon will print it to whatever sort of size you want, depending on how much paper they have. and then we have a hanging system, a temporary hanging system in our headquarters, where we sort of create a kind of democratic gallery that builds up over the 3 days.
Awesome.
As the festival proceeds. And that way people can contribute to an exhibit and also get something to take home with them.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And then my very favorite, the shots and works
Yes.
at the pavilion.
Yeah.
I love this idea.
Yeah.
Just I'm getting the 1 minute signal, so we have to wrap it up. But
Yeah.
I want to hear about that, and then I just want to get one more question. What do you want to walk away with after this year?
Yeah. So the Shots and Works projection is about being just overwhelmed by an enormous photograph. There's something that Nick likes to call tribal about kind of getting people together and seeing the big screen. So that's really what the experience is like in the pavilion. And then, in terms of takeaway, for me, it's always about individuals having kind of an aha moment of why they love photography. And I think that's what's great about the festival, is the feelings of inspiration that people take away with. They feel, oh yeah, that's why I love being a photographer. That kind of connection to their passion. That's what I hope people take away with it.
And inspiration, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where can our viewers find you, or more information? Website?
Yeah, our website, look3.org. It's the best way to see our schedule and our lineup and our artists.
See how simple that is?
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. I know you're busy.
Yeah, thanks for having
I'm
me.
really looking forward to displaying my photography at the your space.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming by and keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thank you for watching another episode of What's Going On Seaville and supporting Kids Making Television with Lighthouse Studio. We'll see you next time.
There's a big white ghost in your brain. It's always on time, it's always the same, but after 35 seconds it's the same. It turns over, turns over, turns over, turns over, turns. He's gone from Mississippi for the Saints. I'll attend the service, but my cover for the service.